In the whipping, I'm whipping the soul out it. Chin the tone when I'm festing like Pilates. Why you frontin', you act like you somebody. Keep a trail in the ville, how I go by it. I was stuck in the rut, I was nobody. I've been looking for something to go body. There's an art to the hustle like yo got it. Kick out a kick back and hit like a new shotty. In the whipping, I'm whipping the soul out it. Chin the tone when I'm
Yo, what is going on, Titan Clan? It is your boy, King Titanex here, back with another video. Anyways, I'm not even gonna hold you guys for too long. All I really need to tell you guys is to remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Also, I have a Discord. Actually, two Discords I would like for you guys to join. My Discord, my personal Discord, and the group channel's Discord. The Divine Tribunal channel that I upload sometimes on as well. Basically, also go down and subscribe and join the Discord. I will leave the link to them in the description below. Besides that, let's get on with the video. Issei's aura exploded. It was so intense that it blew many people away. He went through one final extreme transformation. Well, this one wasn't as intense as the other ones. It was draconic in appearance compared to the other forms he took on over the little while he was a devil, but Issei also had a new color change. This time, rather than white and purple, the white was replaced with gold. What is this? Vali asked. Issei leaped up and ground Vali's face before pulling him down. He slammed him into the ground and began to punish the fool. He stomped on the white-haired boy's chest before kicking him in the side. Vali tried to get up and defend himself, but Issei wasn't going to allow that to happen. He was dividing the strength of Vali now.
Of all the people I've met up until now, you're by far one of the most foolish. Tell me, Vali, what is my name?
Huh? Your name? What kind of question is that? It's Issei, isn't it? Issei tisked when he heard Vali's response. He picked Vali up and kneed him in the nose, or, well, the armor around that area. The force from the last attack was too powerful for the armor of the White Dragon Emperor to handle though. It shattered almost instantly and Vali was left with a bloody nose, bruised ribs, and an aching chest.
I meant my original name,
Issei replied. Vali groaned as he struggled to pick himself up. Issei allowed him to do so this time around, but his fate had already been sealed from the very beginning. Original name? What do you mean by that? Issei smirked from underneath his helmet. He folded his arms and began to float.
You all may know me as Issei the Red Dragon Emperor. When in my past life, I went by another name. That name was Lord Frieza. Now die!
Issei summoned the saucer, preparing to launch it at his rival before someone interrupted their fight. A man with black hair dressed in Chinese armor appeared out of nowhere and grabbed onto Vali. He was rattled seeing how worse for wear Vali was. Issei, when he saw the individual, had a great rage rise within his heart. He didn't know why, but they reminded him of a certain individual, perhaps from his past life as Lord Frieza. He couldn't help but try to attack the individual as well, feeling that he was in cahoots with Vali. He refused to take any risks here. That and his rage was beginning to cloud his judgment.
but they schemed before he could finish charging a more worthy attack. After all of the rest of the opponents were dealt with, the meeting resumed. The three factions were able to sign the peace treaty, knowing that Vali's actions had no connection to the fallen angels. Michael even gave Issei a gift in the form of Ascalon, explaining how he always intended on giving it to him, but he was unconscious until just a couple of hours ago. Michael was even more generous in being willing to allow Zenobia and Asya to do some of the religious rituals that they grew up doing, even though they were devils now. He then explained that he would have to rework the system a little bit to make exceptions for them later on. Azazel was also made the Occult Research Club's new advisor. This was something that shocked everyone from within Rias's peerage, but they were forced to agree to the terms. Issei didn't let it bother him too much though. There were more important matters to deal with, such as the reveal of the fact he was the reincarnation of a powerful tyrant. Everyone heard it that day. They didn't necessarily know who Frieza was at the time, but there was some research done in order to discover who this being was. This Frieza guy wasn't necessarily from this dimension, interestingly enough. Well, sort of. Looking for enough back in history, they found some concerning information. There were some obscure myths about there being a myth, about there being a being so powerful they could easily erase the universe. The being's name was Zeno, and there were apparently two of them. They had a tournament formed to fuel their boredom, and it gathered 10 of the very best warriors from different universes, 8 in total, with 4 being excluded for having high mortal ratings. Among the people within the different universes, there was a peculiar individual with pure white skin and some sort of purple armor covering different parts of their body. Very peculiar places. With all that Issei displayed, it almost mirrored the moveset and abilities of this creature. This changed everything. There were even more powerful beings than the ones from here, and to such an extent, that was a terrifying thought. Simply knowing this encouraged the devils to send the House of Gramarye down to the underworld in order to train. They disguised it by making them believe it was only going to be a young devils gathering. Issei ended up meeting more Rias's family members during this time and learned more about their culture as well. All of this was setting him up for the ceremony, but right before that could happen, he met up with the other devils that were chosen. From what he heard, they would be having a competition of sorts. Now, I'll be honest, when it came on to some of these guys' names, it was, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce some of these names, so this is the best I'll give you guys. Their names were Baal, Agaris, Labolis, and Diodora Astaroth. Apologies if I pronounced these guys' names wrong. He already had a bad vibe towards some of them, but he wasn't going to allow that to distract him. He had better things to focus on after all. He was forced to train with the former Dragon King Tannen in order to prepare himself for the rating game between Rias and Sona. It didn't take him too long to level up though, and he also managed to practice with the divine dividing ability he stole from Vali. It was honestly quite useful. When the training was over though, Issei went on to meet up with Rainbow Phoenix once again at a party for the Young Devil Gathering. She explained how she was traded over to her mother's peerage as a free bishop while Riser was still in a slump after his overwhelming loss to Issei. She seemed to be rather happy, now being able to focus on other interests, and it turned out she took up baking. She even suggested Issei try some of her homemade cake the next time they met. Issei was all up for that. As Ravel left, he noticed that there was something off. It was regarding Konako. She was running out to the party, but for what reason? He went to investigate alongside Rias. They chased after Konako and ended up finding their way into the forest. While there, Issei was introduced to the bane of Konako's existence, her older sister, Kuroka. She wanted to take back custody of her little sister, but she was obviously refused. Baiko was beside Kuroka as they went on the offensive, but they weren't prepared for the overwhelming strength Issei had. The rate at which Issei became stronger through some days of training was honestly amazing. Even before training with Tannen, he would have stood a good chance against the duo, but now it was simply overkill. He immediately pinned Baiko down and grabbed Kuroka by the throat. Despite her best efforts, she was unable to break free from his grip. Issei left Baiko unconscious and told Rias to drag his body back into the party hall so she could have his power concealed by the Council of Devils. He was bringing Kuroka in for the same reason. Even when Arthur Pendragon appeared, attempting to retrieve his fallen allies, Issei shot him down, literally. Several death beams within the shoulders and kneecaps. Some hit him in the feet and hands too. He was left immobilized and Issei kicked his teeth in. Kuroka screamed in horror seeing how much of a monster Issei was. She kicked and screamed, demanding Issei let her go, but he headbutted her in response. Arthur managed to pull one tricky move though, which enabled him to get close to Baiko though and teleport him away. He couldn't get Kuroka, unfortunately, but he would come back for her. While Kuroka was on trial, Issei assisted Rias in their rating game against Sona's peerage. With Issei here, it was a blowout. While exploring the simulation of a city that was created for the rating game though, Issei ended up meeting with Akano. They had a little dialogue with each other regarding using the full extent of her power and found themselves sharing a kiss midway through. Konako interrupted the moment though, requesting for Issei to do the same for her. Gave her the courage she needed in order to use her repressed power and to stop her in case she ever lost control like her older sister. Issei agreed and even partnered up with her when the teams regrouped. They faced off against Saji and Baruko, but before Saji could even do anything, Issei slapped him away into a building, leaving the poor boy unconscious. He never had a chance in all honesty. Of course, he was retired right after. Issei went on to watch Konako take down her opponent as well. She didn't want his assistance here. She wanted to prove her worth all throughout. Tsubaki tried to get the jump on him, but they were also sent into early retirement as he grabbed them with his dragon tail and strangled them until they were unconscious. He also split their strength in half a couple of times to speed up the process. Issei assisted a couple of more times when it was needed, but everyone was able to handle Sona's peerage for the most part. In the end, Rias won the rating game fair and square. She thanked Issei for helping Konako and Akano with getting over their fears as they were getting ready to leave. While they were on the train ride home, Konako ended up snuggling next to Issei. She was honestly quite warm. Issei didn't mind this. Rias giggled when she saw how affectionate Konako had become to Issei. When they arrived back home, they were surprised to see Diodora Astaroth there. The very first thing he did was walk past Issei and all the rest of Rias' peerage, though, and approached Asya directly. He kneeled down and immediately proposed to the girl. Both Kiba and Issei were ticked off by this guy, but for very different reasons. Kiba genuinely liked Asya, and they were progressing with the relationship quite a bit, while Issei was simply annoyed at the fact this guy ignored him. He was a reincarnation of Lord Frieza, for crying out loud. This guy was a worm to him. When Asya rejected Astaroth's proposal, Kiba began to calm down, interestingly enough. He was about to pull out his sword and chop off Astaroth's head. Until then, Astaroth was flabbergasted and demanded to know why. She explained that she just wasn't interested in him, and she was already in a beautiful relationship with Yuto Kaiba. Or was it Kiba? She wasn't about to risk it with someone she healed years ago. Issei and Kiba couldn't help but laugh at the young devil's misery. Astaroth left in shame, but he promised that he would marry Asya one day. The boys didn't stop laughing until a minute later. Kiba walked over to Asya and hugged her tightly, whispering in her ear, asking her to promise not to ever marry that bozo and abandon him. She was one of the best things to ever happen to him, and he never wanted to lose her. Asya blushed, but she promised that she wouldn't even consider it. Issei and everyone ended up finding themselves on live TV within the underworld, where they were being interviewed for the upcoming rating games they'd be partaking in. One of the young devils, who had just recently won their last rating game, made a declaration on how they would be the ones to defeat the Rias Primary household through pure power alone. Issei snickered when he heard this.
I'd like to see you try,
Issei said. This only riled up their future opponent, but they quickly composed themselves. Rias and their peerage quickly took their leave, though, as they had their own match to attend to. It was between Diodora and his peerage, but it was interrupted by the Chaos Brigade. Diodora, right then and there, revealed the fact he was actually allied with the group. Those were the last words he said, though, as he was immediately killed by Issei. He saw it as completely justifiable, as he was a traitor who needed to be dealt with. He was about to kidnap one of their members too. He refused to let that happen. Even when Shalba Beelzebub arrived to handle Issei, he went into his fourth form in order to deal with them. One hit KO for both using his saucers. The Chaos Brigade seeing this, immediately disappeared, not wanting to face Issei's wrath at the moment. Even with Diodora gone now, that didn't necessarily mean the same for his peerage. They wanted revenge. Issei looked over to Akano, though, and came up with an idea.
Hey, Akano, do you think you can take on some of these guys' forces? I know we stand and all, but they're still moving.
Issei explained. Oh, and what's in it for me? She asked.
A date.
Issei answered seriously. Issei couldn't tell. Well, Issei could tell she was excited by this prospect as she immediately took down 1/4 of the forces. Everyone else managed to share their part of the load as well when it came to defeating Astaroth's forces. Issei went on to become a celebrity of sorts in the underworld. Kids pretty much saw him as the Superman of the underworld with how he was easily able to defeat the big baddies. They were even making a cartoon series based off of him now with his rising popularity. Drake spoke up when they heard about this. They were interested in this show. Issei was probably his strongest toast yet, and now even the people of the underworld were recognizing his overwhelming strength. He laughed seeing this. He couldn't wait to rub this in Albion's face the next time they met. Arena expressed her excitement seeing the show and how far Issei went from being just a childhood friend to a celebrity of the underworld. Issei gave a compliment of his own to the girl, which caused her wings to flicker from white to black for a second. Akano embraced Issei from behind and rested her chin on his head. She brought up the date Issei promised her, which Issei was all up for. It resulted in some interesting predicaments, such as binge watching Naruto and crying seeing Jiraiya's death. Moment of silence. Nothing too eventful happened from there on until the Rivalries household were directed towards an abandoned factory one day. Inside of the building though, they found more members of the Chaos Brigade. Issei immediately powered up and the rest of the crew got ready for battle. This wasn't going to end well. And this is how I shall end off for right now. It is King Ty next signing out. You guys already know the deal. Peace.